Have you ever looked at someone, or maybe even yourself, and just thought, why are we doing this again? We get stuck in these loops, these patterns that clearly don't work, and we just keep repeating them. Now, it's easy to think it's a lack of willpower, but what psychology tells us is so much more interesting. These things we do, they're not failures. They're actually these really sophisticated, deeply wired survival tools that have just gone past their expiration date.
Okay, let's dive right in. First up, we're tackling two of the biggest, most fundamental behaviors that keep people stuck in place, and a lot of the time they don't even see it happening.
I mean, this is the million-dollar question, isn't it? It just doesn't seem to make sense. If you're smart enough to see that a pattern is hurting you, why is it so incredibly hard to change? Well, as we're about to see, the answer has way less to do with logic and a whole lot more to do with the primal, protective wiring of our brains.
So, pattern number one is a big one. We all know someone or are someone who will bend over backward to justify a decision they made years ago. We might just call them stubborn, right? But what's really going on is this cognitive trap called commitment escalation bias. The brain is just trying to protect the story it tells about itself, and admitting a past mistake can feel like a direct threat to who you are.
And here's where the magic happens. When your brain sees admitting a mistake as a threat, it's stuck on defense. All its energy is going into building walls. But the second you lower that shield, poof! All that mental energy is suddenly free. It can finally be used for what it's great at, actually solving today's problems instead of defending yesterday's choices.
Oh, and here's a classic. You know, the whole "I'll start when" mindset? We call it procrastination, but giving it a fancy name like conditional initiation syndrome helps us see what's really happening under the hood. This isn't laziness, not at all. It's your brain's risk assessment system just going into overdrive, demanding a level of certainty that, let's be honest, almost never exists in the real world.
And here's the paradox, the catch-22 of it all. By waiting for that perfect moment, you're actually robbing your brain of the chance to learn the one skill it really needs, how to deal with uncertainty. And what's wild is that the research shows our brains actually get more creative and perform better with a few constraints and a little imperfection. They're not bugs, they're features.
All right, so now we're going to turn our gaze inward. In this next section, we're going to look at those cognitive loops, those mental habits that just run on repeat inside our own heads, keeping us right where we are.
We've all been here. Before you make a decision, you gotta check with your friends, your family, maybe post a poll online. It looks like you're just being indecisive, but it's actually a pretty clever, unconscious strategy. You're outsourcing the judgment. You're spreading out the risk. That way, if things go south, hey, it's not all on you.
But here's the thing, that strategy has a real cost. It can lead to something called learned helplessness, where the mental pathways from making your own calls actually get weaker from not being used. The moment you break this pattern, you start building what's called an internal locus of control. Your own judgment. It's like a muscle, and it only gets stronger when you actually use it.
Okay, this next one is a really sneaky trap, especially for smart, curious people. It's that endless cycle of reading just one more book, watching one more tutorial, taking one more course, all without ever doing the thing. Your brain is swapping out the risky, scary act of doing for the safe, comfortable act of learning, creating this perfect illusion that you're making progress.
And this slide really shows you why that's such a dead end. See, passive learning and active doing, they light up completely different parts of the brain. You can't learn to ride a bike by reading the manual. The second you switch from just collecting information to actually trying something, even if it's messy, your brain flips into experiential mode. And that is where the real, lasting growth actually happens.
Ah, yes, the mental monologue. You know, when you play out entire conversations in your head over and over and over again? It really feels like you're preparing, but what's really going on is your brain is just running these endless simulations, trying to control a future that is totally, completely uncontrollable.
And here's the kicker. All that rehearsal can actually make you worse in the real conversation. Real connection isn't about delivering your lines perfectly. It's about listening and adapting in the moment. When people manage to quiet this pattern, they free up a huge amount of mental energy.
So, we've taken a good look at the internal world. Now, let's zoom out. Let's look at the patterns that show up in how we interact with the world and the people around us.
Ever find yourself just doom scrolling the news, getting way too invested in some online drama, or diving headfirst into other people's problems? Well, that's not just a distraction, it's a very sophisticated avoidance tool. Your brain gets a little jolt of urgency and importance from these external crises, and it gets all of that without having to face the real personal challenges waiting in your own life.
And this is all about where you point your focus. When you consciously decide to stop consuming other people's emergencies, your nervous system literally starts to recalibrate. That anxiety you feel doesn't just vanish, it gets redirected. It moves toward the things in your own life that you can actually do something about. You take back your attention and aim it where it counts.
This pattern is all about keeping up with relationships that are really just for show, or maybe just out of habit. It comes from this really old, outdated survival instinct. Our caveman brain basically thinks a bigger network means more safety. But in today's world, having this huge portfolio of shallow connections can actually be more exhausting than helpful.
The big idea here is that sometimes less is so much more. Trimming those performative relationships, it's not about becoming a hermit, it's about focusing your social energy. It's like gardening. When you stop watering all the weeds, you have so much more for the few authentic connections that you really care about, and they grow so much stronger.
And this might be the most modern anchor of all. Our brains were built to compare ourselves to the 50 people in our little tribe. But social media has completely hijacked that system. We are now constantly doing this thing we can call asymmetric comparison. And that means judging our messy, raw, behind-the-scenes footage against everyone else's perfectly edited highlight. This slide just lays it all out, doesn't it? You're comparing your entire journey, all the struggles, the doubts, the messy work in progress, against a final product. A presentation that has been handpicked, curated, and polished for everyone to see. It's a game you literally cannot win. It's rigged against you from the start. Okay, so we've identified the anchors, we've decoded the patterns, both internal and external. Now for the big finale. Let's bring this all home and talk about the single most powerful thing you can do to actually break free. Please, if you take one thing away from all of this, let it be this. None of these 8 patterns mean you're broken. They are not character flaws, they're not signs of weakness. They are sophisticated survival tools that your brain built for a world that, frankly, might not exist anymore. Seeing them not as your failures, but as outdated software, that is the key. That's what gives you the power to make a change.
Look, the goal here isn't to fix all of these overnight. That's impossible. The real goal is just awareness. It's seeing the anchor for what it is. Because now that you can see them, now that you can name them, the only real question left is, which rope are you going to choose to cut first?